like you said, to Trump, but they're getting beauty.
They said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from Georgia carry that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.
I'm Brian Kemp. I'm so conservative, I blow up government spending. I own guns that no one's taking away. My chainsaw's ready to rip up some regulations. I got a big truck, just in case I need to round up criminal illegals and take them home myself. Yep, I just said that. I'm Brian Kemp. If you want a politically incorrect conservative, that's me.
Good evening. Welcome to Small Town Undergrounds. Back from a hiatus. Good evening, everybody. The show will go on. I have not shared the link out yet. I haven't even had time to do that. So you can help me tonight by sharing the link out. You'll notice I just played a commercial from about 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, from Brian Kemp, our governor of the state of Georgia. And I'm going to spend, it's going to be a weird night coming back because I just got a call a little bit ago from David Cross, who wanted to come on the show. And I said, okay, I have some stuff to cover, some stuff to get off my chest. And I said, sure. So David Cross will be joining us at about 9:30. So it gives you about 20 minutes to clear the air tonight and go through the few things that I wanted to go through. So it's nice to see everybody get back in the saddle. War Room Georgia had a great show today. They had Reagan Box on there. and I cannot remember the name. The firearms trainer that is running for office coming up, Tory Branham. That was a good show, and always enjoy that. And so people are hitting me up for the link. So hang on one second and let me get this link sent out, okay? And it always helps if you'll share the show, because I'm a one-man mechanical dude here doing everything, so I can't get it out as quickly as I want to. Anyway, I'm going to be covering tonight just a few things. I have no idea what David Cross wants to come on the show and say, so it ought to be interesting. We'll be learning together as we go through this. Let me make sure that everything's up. Everything looks good. Feel free to join in the chat with us if you would like to. We are live streaming on Rumble, X, and Facebook. We will be uploading it to YouTube. So anyway, I'll just share out the show later because I just don't have time and I don't want a bunch of dead air. So took a little bit of a break, as you noticed tonight, 50-50 shot to be on the show tonight. We did have a medical emergency with my daughter. Everything's okay. Thank goodness. We thought that she might have an appendicitis, and it turns out maybe she had some issues with a pulled muscle, and that has been messing with us. So we've been battling that all day, and I was fully prepared to be at the hospital if needed. But everything's worked out. My daughter's almost home. So I'm thankful to Jesus tonight that it's not appendicitis, and we don't really know exactly what it is. But all of the tests came back good with her, and very, very thankful for that, because that's my baby, and I don't want her to be hurt like that. But she's been hurting for a little while. So it all just kind of came to a head. I did make it to the polls yesterday. I did not make it to the polls before I left town, but I was able to go yesterday, and it is pretty dismal that I think we only had a total of I think about 60,000 people, give or take some, in the state of Georgia that voted these special elections. And so I had a conversation earlier with somebody about how much money it costs to do these special elections, and how a lot of these special elections are designed to be not on the regular ballot where everybody's voting, because they are what they call these special elections, and they need to be specially treated, right? You don't want to know too much about some of these candidates or some of these SPLOST taxes and all these things. So, you put these off on a special election where not a lot of people are paying attention. And it works, because I didn't even know that these positions actually existed, these commissioners, these regional commissioners for the utilities, right? So I did my research, and I think you should know me by now. I'm usually go for the underdog, because the underdogs are not the reason that I'm here running my mouth. It's usually the establishment, the people that are well in the system. And I think it's hilarious, because all of a sudden you've got all these people that care about your utility prices, and then you find out that there's a board of commissioners or regionals commissioners that get to do votes on price hikes and rates, electric rates. And then they start touting about how they're experts in the field, and they know all about power and energy and keeping your electric bills lower, yet they continue to rise and rise and rise every single year. It reminds me of all of the research I did on taxes, right? And thanks for the wonderful stimulus tax check that we all got in the mail, right? As our governor proposed a state income tax decrease, which would take about 55 years to go into effect, whereas I researched on taxes as far as 13 and 14 years ago, where Republicans and Democrats alike were cheering on their recent tax cuts from 14 years ago, that they very much accomplished something in the legislature this year. And we did a service for everybody by lowering taxes, yet we pay more taxes now than anybody probably pays taxes. Ridiculous taxes upon taxes upon taxes. We welcome to the clown show. I mean, it's a complete clown world. Why we are still paying taxes the way we are still paying, why we are continuing these loopholes of all of the crap that we just jump through, and we elect regional commissioners. We have no idea who they are and what they're doing, that are most of the time appointed, but yet your electric bill continues to rise. So, I mean, that's where we're at. So I'm going to double check here on everything else that's going on. Good. So all systems are up. So obviously we're going to talk about a little bit about convention, right? My first state convention, and I have a lot of notes here, and they're all out of order. You'll have to forgive me because I wasn't sure if I'm going to be on tonight, but so I'll cover a few things from my point of view on convention. I was a sergeant at arms, and funny that there's a lot of things going on with sergeant of arms, right? I'm not saying at all that that paper ballots were suppressed by the sergeant of arms. The last thing that I had heard by the sergeant of arms was that there was a possibility that paper ballots would be used. But I then got moved to a part of the building on the opposite side of the convention and missed pretty much the entire first part of the convention all the way up until after lunch, when I came out and mindlessly went to go pick up a box of clickers because I'd pretty much missed everything that was going on. From the door that I was protecting, the almighty door that was letting in people from, I guess, dignitaries, whatever you want to call them. So had no idea. We knew that there was going to be some microphone blocking. Had absolutely no idea that the microphones were blocked in the manner that they were, especially from the stuff that I was handling on the backside, nearly losing it because I realized that the convention was started on the rules, and they pretty much voted on. They voted so strangely. I barely could understand, but it was basically a call to question before there was even a debate. And then it was like, oh, well, we're just going to call to question. We're not even going to devote any time to debating. We're going to pass these rules, and bam, they passed. So before you knew it, everything was just railroading right off the cliff. And it just went from there. I've heard a lot of things about the standing vote at the beginning was hard to see. Well, they had the lights turned off. Why did you have the lights turned off at the convention, and you have the convention chair literally doing like this out in the crowd? God only knows. But it was pretty crazy from the get-go. So there was a lot of, God, I mean, it was look, I'm going to get to my point in a minute. And like I said, I played the hang on one second, guys. I played the intro with Brian Kemp because all roads lead back to Brian Kemp, and we're going to be serious about this. We're going to make sure that we get this out, and there's no question about any of this stuff. I've got to get this out into a few groups here. Let's see. So now they're limiting us sharing. So there we go. So I got it out where I need to. But yeah, it was a crap show, man. Now, before I go further into this, I want to explain that it's not about, I'm not a sore loser. Obviously, I was played in a video with David Cross, and that's an interesting story all in and of itself. I make no endorsements on the show, never have, and I don't ever intend to, because I don't really believe in endorsements in the first place, and I want to keep this show open to as many people as I can, right? Because my goal is to educate. But obviously paper ballots are a big thing, and I want to share a contrast with you because, see, I don't sit back and talk about the enemy. These people are enemies. And I hear this word being just traipsed around so much. These people with these clear lines in the sand about enemies. Oh, these are the enemies. These are the cheaters. And couldn't be farther from the truth, right? But I got involved with the Georgians for Truth push for paper ballots. Now, back up a little bit. My district, we did paper ballots, and against the whispers in the background. Let's just go ahead and say that there were whispers in the background that they didn't want paper ballots, but they weren't going to stop us. They got everything ready to go, and they did it. So I was very proud of that fact, and we did it on the kind of on the fly. And people will argue and say, "This was planned. This was a planned thing that we did." Yes, I'm not. No, I don't want to give anybody the insinuation that the paper ballots weren't provided and there wasn't thought put into it. But the process itself was on the fly. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we did it. We did it flawlessly. There was 3 other districts that did it. Why did we do it? Because we spent a lot of time fighting election security in this state. We spend a lot of time, and each day that goes by, there's more things that drop out of our government. Hence the most recent article that dropped out from Kash Patel about how the Chinese were actually trying to make fake ballots and fake IDs and all this fake stuff for 2020 in order to inject it into the 2020 race. Right? It all goes back to 2020. And every single day I'm reminded, Mike Lindell just won his case out in Colorado. I'm reminded of all the sham trials that we've had here in Georgia. The 2020 election was fraudulent, all around fraudulent. So the answer, paper ballots. So the answer from Donald Trump, executive order, we want paper ballots, right? Every single state around this state of Georgia has gotten rid of Dominion voting systems. Okay, Georgia is still here, still with the same piece of crap, Secretary of State, the same piece of crap machines that I had to vote on the other night. So what did we want? Did I show up with my hands out? Did we show up did any of these people show up with an insinuation like they were going to cheat or they were the enemy or that they were going to do anything? No, they simply wanted to be heard for paper ballots. Now, mind you, if I were running the state, if I was the dictator of the GOP, and I saw a massive campaign from grassroots activists all over the state, people, just peasants, and how well they got coordinated and how well that they, how much thought they took into everything and how many T's they crossed and I's they dotted to make sure that this was a wonderful program. And not only that, but to share it with everybody out there. I would feel pretty ashamed that I wouldn't even give it the time of day. But that's exactly what happened. The paper ballots got completely overlooked, and they were deemed the enemy, the cheaters, the this, the that's, all this stuff. And it was a shame. It was a shame that there was zero discussion over any of it. It was just railroaded right through. It honestly, it hurt me. I was mad, and and you know what? My number one goal was to honor what my job was, the SAA. Whatever the convention body did is what we were going to do. We tried our hardest not to influence from an inside-out level. We tried to participate in some of their training seminars. And I got to send a shout out, Sam, Carline, Field Cersei, those guys were amazing and all of the volunteers that went through that. I mean, my God, it was amazing to watch all of that. And I mean, like, why do you even need a Trump Force 47 when you got these people at your beck and call that you can just activate, right, for the right things? But I don't think Georgia wants the right things. I don't think that our direction is headed in a way that is going to change anything that we've seen, especially in the last year. The convention chair to me was absolutely horrible. The guy was ignoring everything. The microphones were turned off. Special shout out to Stacey Doran for what she said, and that was completely overlooked by the convention chair. Very rudely, I might add. That's disgraceful. Notice the lights were turned off at the beginning, then they turned the lights on when everybody's voting. So before, when you're trying to do the serious stuff, you got a convention chair out here doing like this. Oh, and then when everybody's got their little clickers in their hands, well, guess what? We'll just turn the lights on. I mean, it's just these kind of tactics, this well-oiled machine of people. That had tons and tons of control of the convention. And let me go ahead and send this out. The speakers, Reagan Box only got 2 minutes to speak. I'm sure she wasn't the only one. That was on Friday. Come on now. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Why will it not let me send this? Hang on, I'm just having a couple technical difficulties. I don't know why it's not letting me send that, but let me go back here. Hold just 1 second. Well, let me see here. I don't know why. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna get that in just a second. I may do this while I play a video here in just a second. But the convention chair, I wasn't very happy with. I was not very happy that the nominating committee spokesperson did what they did. I mean, you've seen all this, you've heard all this before, but it was pretty disgraceful. I understand it was a contentious campaign. I understand that there was mudslinging going on both sides, but in a convention setting like that, when you're nominating, and the fact that you kind of smack people in the face that you're only going to nominate one person, and then nominations from the floor, but then you go on with all of that abhorrent behavior on the stage was pretty bad. Also, we've got the recordings out of some of the things that were said in the room. Maybe they weren't supposed to be heard by our ears, but nonetheless, we heard them, and the whole thing was just. It was a letdown. I mean, it was a slap in the face. And the funny thing is, to me, is that there was a clear line in the sand there that, well, I'll give you an example here. I'm going to play a clip for you in a second where somebody lays this out perfectly about how, well, the convention was pretty buttoned up. We knew we were going to win and this and that and the other. Well, then why did you go through all of the rigmarole? Why didn't you give anybody the chance if you knew that it was going to be a win or whatever, right? This notion of people wanting to use paper ballots to cheat is the most idiotic thing that I've ever heard, especially given the fact of some of these people's integrity. So, it just goes back to the same thing, this clear line in the sand of this great big divide. And so what are we going to do, right? We as far as I can tell, we're going to get about the same thing, right? We did have an awesome resolutions package that was passed. Several good things that were passed out of it. And the night of the convention, the chairman, the reelected chairman, said they were not going to honor those resolutions. Why? Because Brad Raffensperger is going to probably run for governor or run for something. And so it's really good, and it's a great virtue signal when you want to hold accountable somebody like Jeff Duncan, who was abhorrent from the get-go, right? But Jeff Duncan doesn't bother anything, right? Jeff Duncan's already out of the picture, so it's real easy to pick on Jeff Duncan and say, Jeff, you can't be a part of the Republican Party for your actions. But now Raffensperger, that's a whole different story, see, because he's in that carousel of power there that is going to have to be shifted around. And so you can't upset that carousel of power. You can't upset that the structure they have going on there. Brad Raffensperger is the useful idiot to the Kemp regime that's been able to hold all this glue together. And so you understand it's great because the district court, I believe, is the 11th Circuit, just ruled that freedom of association does stand. So Catoosa County other counties can have freedom of association, and they can control who runs as a Republican. But guess what? It doesn't amount to much of a hill of beans if the Republican Party won't allow a resolution that was passed by the body to go forward, right? And so we're going to get into that for just a second. And you'll have to forgive me because we're having a issue here. But I'm about to play something for you, so just bear with me, guys. I am not... I don't have sponsors. If you want to support me, givesendgo.com. This is a one-man show, so I do everything on my own. But I want to play you something here. Well, first, let's cover this really quick because I've got to get David loaded up. But I'm going to show this to you very quickly. All right. Actually, give me just a second so I can get this loaded in. All right, I got his email. We're going to be bringing David Cross in here in just a second. So I'm about to send it to him, so just hold on 1 second. Okay, there it is. There it is. So I'll get this done, and then we'll be right back on schedule. For some reason, the email address wasn't allowing me to send what I needed to send. So I'm sending it now, and we'll get him loaded up here. Okay. So let's go back really quickly here. Let me close this out. From what I was saying, where is it at? Boom. All right. I'm pulling this up now. So if you look at this story here from the AJC, it says GOP chair says party won't block Raffensperger bid for higher office, right? So here he is, Josh McCoon, who won the GOP re-election chair. And let's just start off with what it says. Fresh off his re-election as Georgia GOP chair, said he would not block Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger for the ballot if he chooses to run in 2026. Quote, I'm not going to put the Republican Party in the position of being sued over ballot access, McCoon said on Tuesday edition of the Politically Georgia podcast. Mind you, the 11th Circuit just upheld the Freedom of Association. So what is the next excuse for not blocking Brad Raffensperger, right? Over the weekend, the delegates approved a resolution calling on party officials to block Raffensperger from qualifying on the Republican ticket. Obviously, the delegates expressed their sense and what their desire is, and they have every right to. But I have a fiduciary responsibility to the Georgia Republican Party. We're not going to engage in those kinds of things. Okay. Well, I mean, that's perfectly fine, but considering that you did this to Jeff Duncan, I'm having a hard time following that. You have a fiduciary responsibility, but it's okay to do it to somebody who is not a part of this Kemp cabal, right? Somebody who's not a part of this blocking and who's actively in office and seeking re-election. Now, why do I say that? Well, it's very, very clear. Because every bit of this goes back to Brian Kemp. It's the same thing that we've talked about on the show. It's the same thing that I've shut up about on the show. Why? Because I've been told to. You can't talk about Brian Kemp. He's got too much money. You know, the man that left the Republican Party, the man who created these coalitions, the man who single-handedly was able to vote in the legislation needed for all of this treasure trove of money that none of us peasants can compete with, right? All of the power and the access. So, of course, you can't go up against that. We're not going to silence somebody or hold somebody accountable for all the crap that has happened in this state because they're part of the system. They're part of the country club, right? Which is the very thing that I voted against, the country club mentality. I came to change things. I came to make things better in this. I came to make things better in this party, and I'm going to have to mute you for just a second. And here we are with this fiduciary responsibility. So now the courts have voted that Freedom Association is fine. It stands, so we can do what we can do. What's the next excuse here? How could you do this to Jeff Duncan, but then you turn around, you're not going to do this to Brad Raffensperger? So I'm going to play two more clips, and then I'm going to bring on David Cross. So I think this is the first one I want to start off with. Yes.
Pretty crazy.
And I would like to say about the paper ballots thing and about the microphones, Brent Frost put together a great plan. We knew we had the numbers. We knew we were going to win. And the paper ballot folks had been trashing Josh and the Republican Party with lies for months. And yet these people wanted to use paper ballots. And they did get to vote on paper ballots. At the microphone I was at, somebody made a motion, and it was clear. Mike Crane was the convention chairman. He made it clear if you vote this way, it's voting to use the clickers, the same clickers which were used in 2023, where Brent Frost lost and Brian Pritchard and David Cross won. The convention body voted.
Okay, so if you listen to all that garbage, it was not clear at all to anybody who was going, and that's the part of the railroading I'm talking about. None of it was clear at the beginning. Nobody knew exactly what they were voting on. Obviously, there's some video footage that would contradict that statement, and I think it's hilarious how they keep bringing up this whole thing about the clickers. Well, David Cross won and Brian K. Pritchard won on these clickers. And I've not heard anybody out of the election integrity movement that are paper ballots even care who won on the clickers. It's not about who wins or who loses. It's about using paper ballots. We have zero accountability on clickers or anything else on how the election was carried out. We did not do a proper accuracy vote count on these stupid clickers. Okay, didn't know where they came from, didn't have any information on them. But you hear this garbage from this ankle biter Dooley, okay, which I'm going to play one more clip and then we're going to get David Cross in here, okay? But that'll be the second and the last time that you ever see that woman on this show because I have higher standards than this. But that was absolute lies there. And then you see how they pit everybody against each other about it's the enemies. Look, I know for a fact that Josh McCoon and the executive committee was reached out to about these ballots. Everybody could have looked into this. Like, it doesn't matter a hill of beans to me what side you stand on this. It's all about using paper ballots. And it was completely denied. It was not set up right at this convention. But this is the narrative that you get. And I'm going to play this other clip here really quick. I believe it's her as well. So hang on. Let me pull this up.
Debbie Reaganbox, I'm concerned about the quality of candidate we're going to get in Georgia against Ossoff. I was very disappointed that Governor Kemp didn't get in the race because he was going to win, and that's an R, and he's going to vote with us 85% of the time. So who cares?
85%.
But he's not, and so it is what it is. Tell me about this Reagan lady. Who is she? Is she even viable?
I don't believe she's viable because, number one, she can't raise money. And you're going to have millions of dollars to defeat Ossoff. You can be the best candidate in the world with the best message and lose if you don't have money enough to get your message to voters. And the thing is, I haven't seen anybody that has expressed interest that I think can beat Ossoff.
Okay, so a lot of people thought I was going to play Sally, right? Sally, I think she thought the other day that I was attacking her for what she said. We can go into a whole different category about what she said, and I plan to explore a little bit of it tonight. And like I said, I'm kind of shortening my version of the show here, so bring David on, and I'm just gonna be as excited as you are because I have no idea what we're gonna get into. That being said, though, I think that Ankle-Biter Dooley said the quiet part out loud, and that's what I wanted everybody to know. You can be the best candidate that you want to be in this entire world and be the strongest candidate, and you can have all of these wonderful ideas and blah, yada, yada, but if you don't have the money, well, you need to just step out of the way. And that is the status quo. That is where we're at with everything, and it really, really sucks because this is the system. This is the game that we're in. This is what we're playing here. And hold on a minute. Why didn't I do that? And all roads lead back to Brian Kemp. This is a carefully crafted merry-go-round of people that are there to protect the party at all costs. Screw everything else. You can be the best candidate that you ever wanted to be. You can do all of these wonderful things, but if you ain't got the money, if you ain't got the access, if you aren't the chosen one, okay, guess what? Just best step out of the way, Reaganbox or anybody else, because you are not going to get the coveted position, right? And that's what's wrong with this. That's what makes this whole thing a political game. That's what makes it a clown show, if you will, because it's ridiculous what we're seeing. It has nothing to do with whether I'm sore about the wins or the losses. The providence of everything that has happened and came out is what we're being able to see and realize is that the vindication is clear. It is a game. It is a high-stakes political game. You have to have that seat at the table. You have to be up there with the elbow rubbing. You cannot step out of line. You cannot try to enter that chamber. you will be denied and you will not be elevated. So I would love your comments on that if you think that I'm out of line or anything like that. And I'm fixing to bring David onto the show. I think he's already here. David, can you hear me?
I got you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, David. So you just threw me a curveball tonight. You're entering in the show, and I'm super excited to get your take on everything. So I'm going to move the camera around a little bit and get you in. So how are you, and what's on your mind, David?
Listen, I'm good. With regard to everything that happened, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I under anticipated how much the Frost family just really hated my guts. So much so that they were willing to sacrifice Katie, the daughter, for the GRA. And I had no idea how butthurt Brant Frost was. So, I underestimated how important that was, because I really view myself as somebody who acts with honor and integrity and truth and transparency. And I sometimes get it in my head that maybe the rest of the world thinks the same way, and clearly they do not. So, you saw it firsthand. You're a sergeant at arms. That your group was divided into the pro Dave and the anti Dave group.
So we've talked a little bit about that. So anytime I'm tasked with a job, sergeant at arms, right? I take it seriously. It's going to be the body of the people. I was put in a position where I missed over half the convention. I don't know. Can't sit here and truthfully say that was done on purpose. After looking back, it seems like it was a little bit purposeful, but we definitely didn't have the proper instructions for what was going on. I had no idea that the mics were being blocked to that extent. And as you heard, if you've heard Debbie Dooley bragging about the plan of the Frost family, right? So we could sit here all day long and say that the Frost, which I don't personally know, that had nothing to do with it, yet it was a carefully coordinated and well laid out plan to block these microphones, right? And I don't know Katie Frost personally, but I will say this, and I'll say it publicly, because once we were done with the convention and heading up to the stage to take a picture, this woman passed me. And when she passed me, and I mean, come on, I'm not stupid, but she kept looking over at me with this really sly grin. And I'm telling you, if daggers could come out of her eyes, I think I'd have been dead. And I don't even know the woman, but she was very happy about everything, and you could just gleaming from it. And so be it. They won the convention, but you cannot sit there, even after I've shown you that it was a carefully coordinated plan to do what they did. What are we supposed to think, David? Are we out of line to think that the Frost family has not got some kind of vendetta, or what?
Oh no! Listen, this thing was very carefully orchestrated. This is not something that came together like over the weekend. And as I said, I was pushing my campaign, as I said before, with honor and integrity. And some people might say, "Oh, you were so negative, and why didn't you have any nice things to say about Josh?" And here's the reality. I don't have nice things to say about somebody who used the company credit card 14 times or more for personal expenses and paid his best friend a huge $21,000 severance, which is more than anybody I've ever seen in my career ever get for 1 year's worth of work. But it's viewed as politics as usual. So, we live in a political world right now. And as I said, I underestimated how butthurt that the Frost family would be. And so where we go from here is, I think that what's happened, whether people realize it or not, on that weekend, the party, I think, was permanently fractured.
Yeah,
permanently fractured. You have one group of people out there who is what I would call the establishment, and another group of people I would call grassroots. And for anybody who doesn't clearly understand what those terms mean, it is simply this: if you are establishment, then that means that however long you've been involved in the party, could be a short period of time, could be a long period of time, you value position and power more than anything else.
Well,
and you will do anything to have it.
It's
and
clearly stated.
Grassroots, you could be young, you could be old, you could be rich, you could be poor. You could be involved in the party for a very short period of time, involved for a long period of time. But above all else, you value God and country. That's it. God and country, come first before position or power. And this is where the party was fractured. It got permanently fractured. I sent out a survey to as many people as I possibly can. Ask them if they went to the convention. If you went to the convention and you responded, to the survey that I sent out, 88%. That's nearly everybody. 88% of people said that convention was either run poorly or flat out rigged. I've never seen numbers like that before in my life.
Well, I mean, again, it was railroaded from the beginning. There was not a proper discussion. There was not a proper vote to even move along with the rules. That much we know. I don't care what people say about, the lights were dim and he couldn't say. To me, the whole thing was null and void at the conjuncture, because I don't even think they voted on the right aspect of that, and they just carried on like it was nothing. Everything up to that point. Look, I think you're right about the fracture, and people are going to probably walk away from this and think for the wrong reasons, but I think you laid it out pretty good. As you see the videos that I played, it's all about money and access. From my point of view, this is the whole Kemp regime that have got their hands in every part of this. That's keeping this carousel, in place, setting up the stage for the coveted next group of people they've already picked. And this Dooley said it right out of her mouth, that you could be the best candidate in the world, but if you don't have the money, and she didn't say this, but if you don't have that access, if you don't have that seat at the table, just kiss it goodbye. And that is a shame, because I believe that my vote is more important than a party or a color. I believe that we should be voting on the individuals, right? How do we get this crap out of this party if we're not voting for candidates who aren't bought and paid for, who don't have a seat at that table, who have morals and values and think outside themselves? I mean, where are we going to go from here?
Yeah. So here you mentioned this lady right here. Let's see. That's Debbie Dooley.
I'm telling you.
Attack dog Debbie Dooley. This lady is, I hate to use this word, she's borderline retarded. She really, really thinks that she's a super smart person, but she doesn't understand the rules. All that she understands is money and power and promises that she's getting from whoever is giving her money.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I mean, I am, I think on your show before, I had started to lay out, some of the financial shenanigans that I think are going on, in the party. And when I say the word shenanigans, you need to understand, anybody who's watching this, you need to understand that anytime that I level, an accusation, I come with the receipts every single time. I never come empty-handed. All right. And what I can tell you is that the more that I'm digging into the federal election, commission reports, the more things that I'm finding that don't make sense. There's a lot of stuff that's going on inside there. And, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody goes to jail over this. I mean, I would not be if Josh McCoon goes to jail over this. So we'll see. I mean, he's already admitted before that whenever those reports are filed, that he goes through them with the treasurer And I think that's total malarkey. I don't think he does. I don't think he looks at these things. I think he tells the secretary to fill it in however the best that she can, and
Right.
and hope for the best. And it's like throwing crap on the wall to see what sticks.
Two things from that. Sure. So we talked a lot about, many people talked about how they don't trust giving their money to like the WinReds and the GOPs and all this. They have no idea where their money's going. So what's changed there, right? We're not gonna get any changes from that. No one's gonna feel any more secure about giving money to the Republican Party. And then secondly, you have all these FEC reports, right? And what was the chant? Well, have you read these FEC reports? Have you guys actually looked into these? Well, then we started looking into them. We found all this stuff, right? All of the stuff that's there. So to me, it's just a travesty that like we're going to just continue on the same path forward. No changes. Nothing will get brought to light. It's the same thing. So why do we even need the GOP? You talked about a permanent fracture. I'm thinking to myself, I've spent the last 2 years trying to build up the GOP, trying to bring in new people to the GOP, trying to solidify that check and balance between the county and the executive, all to be just dropped down to be called basically labeled an enemy. So why should I invest any more time into the GOP? I mean,
listen, I don't have an answer for you. I've done I literally, a couple of days ago. I don't want to throw my money in the toilet. For all I know, Josh McCoon's going to go spend it on pizza or steaks or going to Brooks Brothers or paying for his dry cleaning bill. I wouldn't trust the Georgia GOP to manage a roll of pennies at this point. It's terrible what we're seeing.
Wow.
The whole reason why I ran as chairman was to restore truth, trust, and transparency, to this organization, which it is severely lacking. You have an organization that is run by a politician who has never had to make a payroll on his own, who has worked for the state. He's he makes more money than Governor Kemp, in the state of Georgia. So, to say that these two boys are joined at the hip, pretty close.
I would say so. And, Josh McCoon, he can always come out and defend his position. But again, what were we talking about before all this? Basically, we want somebody who's not beholden to the state. We want somebody that's not on that payroll. Brian Kemp does come out and congratulate him. I'm not faulting McCoon for that because Kemp might have done that for anybody. But for somebody who spent the last 2 years building up an entire coalition against the GOP, only to come out now say, oh, this is great. And you see the future play that's happening. We had a beautiful resolution against Brad Raffensperger, much deserved. All right. And they turned around that night and said, no, we're not going to do this. So now one of the reasons has already been debunked, right? The 11th Circuit of Appeals. The second one is a fiduciary responsibility, but it was certainly okay to do that to Jeff Duncan because Jeff Duncan was way over here, outside of any of these controlled situations. But all of a sudden, we're not going to do this to Brad Raffensperger. But yet, the news releases every other day about another fraudulent part of the 2020 election that we've been fighting for years. I mean, the whole thing to me is a circus. It's a clown show. How are you taking any of this seriously, David? I don't even know why you would want to be chair with all of this clown show.
Well, here's the thing. When I ran, I had a 22-point plan.
Yes, you did.
Restore this thing, to restore the health of this thing and get it, to harness the true power of the grassroots. Josh McCoon had no interest in harnessing the grassroots. If anything, he wanted to squelch it. He didn't want to hear from you. He didn't want to hear from me. He wanted your money, but he doesn't want your ideas. He doesn't want your input. He doesn't want your connections.
No,
so
I think that's clear.
If the party doesn't want me, and the party doesn't want you, then what exactly do they want? And the way that it looks to me is that they want money, they want position, and as you know, as one of my very good friends, you know, Julie Allen says, you know, they want to, you know, they want to rule, keep it small, and rule it all.
Yes.
And that's exactly what's happening. I think what you're going to see, county parties are going to collapse to smaller and smaller, to smaller and smaller numbers, to the point where maybe you've got 10 or 20 people involved in it, and they're all over 70. And in a few years, you're going to be down to 5 people, and then 2 people, then 1 person. And then what exactly do you have? You know, you basically have, I mean, you ever see those old castles like, you know, over in Scotland, where you got this magnificent rusted out, you know, or not rusted out, but like this magnificent castle up on a hill that nobody lives in. And it looks magnificent, but it is the ruler of none. And that's the road that we're on right now.
I agree. The GOP came to me. I had no interest in getting involved. When I did get involved, I said, yeah, I can get behind. These are the principles that I live my life by. With the grassroots came in to change things, to make things better. When I'm talking about a change, I'm talking about electing candidates that were going to work with their people, common sense laws, not all this crap that we get day in and day out. We wanted to grow the party to get more people involved and educate them on little things like Robert's rules and are we doing things right. Those things have been shut down for the most part all throughout this process. To now, it's just a moot point. It's like, why would you continue with this party, especially again from one of the horse's mouths? Well, we knew we had this in the bag. Then why did you go through all of that trouble? To button this thing down, to block these grassroots people, some of the best I've ever seen, from simply doing something as simple as a paper ballot. I mean, if you're blocking people on that level, then there's no reason to continue on here. So I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
And listen, that's exactly where we're at right now, where you know, you have a very small group of people that want to run the show, and it is about their egos. It's not about. And as I said, so to me, the party is fractured. I think there's going to be there's people that are going to walk away. Those grassroots people are probably still going to vote for Republicans. I don't have any doubt about it, because those people, you know, think with their minds and their hearts and their values, and they will vote that way. But I don't know that they're going to go out and give their time to an organization that lies to them. No. I mean, as I said before, when I say lies to you, I'm talking about an organization that does not report their financials, you know, truthfully, you know, at least in my opinion. And the head of that organization is using your money to pay for his bow ties or his suspenders over at Brooks Brothers, to go to Jump Zone with his family. He's paying for his dry cleaning bills, you know. Well,
and he's not accountable to anybody. There's no accountability whatsoever. No, he wouldn't even come out and talk.
There are no cost controls.
No.
Yeah. And he will not speak to you. He'll literally say, you know, well, you're clearly against me. You know, if you're asking.
He had an
question.
army of people that were litigating his responses for him. That's one thing I noticed that I kept my quiet about, right? Because I don't go necessarily pissing on other people's bushes, but I'll tell you, there was a lot of shade tree press secretaries out there for Mr. McCoon, when if I ever needed anything from you, I could pick up the phone and call you, and you would tell me whether I wanted to hear it or not, that what the answer was. And that's what I expect in a leader, is somebody that you can communicate with and will stand up no matter what.
That's the way it works. And for anybody that's out there that's watching this, if you didn't go to the convention, I want to paint a picture for you. So Roy is one of his jobs was to be a sergeant at arms. His job was to make sure that the crowd was under control, people didn't get unruly and that kind of thing, and to basically pull people away if they got out of line. And that is an admirable job. But what I want to paint a picture for you is at this convention, there is a family that's down in Coweta County that hates my guts because I beat their son in 2023. And they made it their mission in life to defeat me. And so here's what they did. At this convention, when we walked into the room, if you wanted to go to one of the microphones to ask for a point of order, which is a privileged motion, and for anybody who's watching this and you've gotten a little bit of exposure to Robert's Rules of Order procedure, you get your ass to that microphone and you say point of order. And if there's somebody standing in front of it, you shout it as close as you can to that microphone so that will stop the convention right then and there. That's one of the things that a lot of people didn't understand. But people had difficulty doing that. Donna Gallagher had the police call up.
That's correct.
Because she was trying to call a point of order and she was being accused of harassment. Meanwhile, Josh McCoon's goons with the Frost family were hogging the microphones, literally hovering over them. And Brant Frost had the ability to look over to the guy who was controlling the microphones and tell him to turn a microphone off or turn a microphone off. All right. That's out of line. And then on top of that, the person who was running the convention was best friends with their family, used to live across the street from them. His congressional campaign funded by that family. So who do you think he owed? Oh, so sure. Brant Frost, this young ne'er-do-well that's out there, I think he's 33, 34, 35 years old, something like that. Don't know how old he is, but his life and his identity is wrapped up in politics. And he made it his mission to defeat me no matter what. And he compromised his ethics and his credibility forever. This convention will be remembered for generations of what not to do. But what he did was he made it so that he said that they did politicking better than anybody else, and he won't apologize for it. But there's a difference between politicking and playing a baseball game where you've got tar on the baseball, where you've got, cork inside the bats, and the umpire is paid for by your family. You're probably going to win that game.
Right. Well, I mean, look, the bottom line, I believe, is that this is politics as usual. This is what I signed up for, to wreck politics as usual. The people don't want politics as usual. We don't want the business as usual. We want a guard at the helm so that 400 bills that are going through legislation that these idiots haven't even read, cannot pass. We literally, in our last legislative session, witnessed a bill that was taken at the 11th hour and completely reformed into something that they say nobody knew about. 28 pages that were added to it of some of the worst legislation that would take the ability away for people like you and me, and even people in the legislative body, to be able to do a Freedom of Information request, and stopped it on that day. And this is the best we can do in Georgia. But people were more outraged by everything up into the convention. This is the problem that I see with politics. You're more upset and wanting to keep control of this status quo establishment little merry-go-round, but never mind the draconian legislation that is being ripped through the Georgia legislature. Our state senator being assaulted from walking into a room, but none of that is more important than what's going on right here. To me, it's ass backwards, and it's like it vindicates the reason why I say I stepped back. I stepped back to come into the Republican Party. I was already long gone away from this, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And you came back and they threw you back out again.
Well, sure. They just wanted a body. They wanted a tribe. I've heard that word tribe so many times. I need you in my tribe. What the hell does that even mean, David? In my tribe, I
Well,
told you from the beginning.
let me share something with you about the tribe. So, in my business, I do investment management, financial planning, and after the 2020 election happened, and I dove in, head first into trying to figure out how the elections are rigged here in Georgia, how the machines don't work. And, I was called crazy. I was called a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. And now every single thing that I've told you for the last 4 years is coming out into just common media where people are like, oh yeah, I guess it really was that way. But I dealt with a lot of that. And, and over those 4 years, man, I lost friends. I lost family members. I lost clients that said, I can't deal with you because you just sound like you're crazy. Turns out I was right. But, that there's, one of the great lessons from the Bible is that God says that nothing will be taken away from you that won't be replaced with something else of equivalent value. And I have seen that in my life. And talking about the tribe thing that you were just mentioning a couple minutes ago, I had clients that came to me, I had friends that came to me, and I had new clients and more abundance than I've ever seen in my career. And those people came to me and they said, I want to work with you because I feel like you're in my tribe. And by tribe, what they're talking about is they said, I feel like we're on the same page, right? I feel like we value the same things. We want the same things. We want, we are for God and country above all else. Mm-hmm. And those are the people. I don't mind being in a tribe with those people. I'm not going to be in a tribe, with the crazy Debbie Dooleys of the world, and the other folks that are out there. I mean, you've got tons of people up in the 14th district. What's her name? Denise Burns up there. She's like one of the craziest people I've ever seen in my life. And I'm sure you're probably going to get some grief for this, but she, along with a bunch of other folks that are out there, they look at me like I don't understand politics, and I look at them like they don't understand what is going on with our country, and we're going to lose if what you value is position and power, and that's what they value.
Well, okay, look, here's. I don't disagree with that. It's all about obviously the Reagan box comment. It's not the fact that the comment was made. It's what the comment means, right? They want Reagan box they want to disenfranchise Reagan with everything that's going on because she's been out here for 2 years doing what she's doing. It doesn't matter that she's a woman and all that stuff. What matters is that if they can get rid of her, they can get off that ticket. She will end up splitting votes for whoever they have coming down the limelight, right? So this system, and I guess rightfully so, it's a political system. So it's based on votes and it's money and access. So they've got to get the votes, right? I disagree with the fact that it's where the rubber meets the road for me, man. I've been up here kind of doing the same thing for the last 2 years because I have no angle here. I want it fixed. I've been surrounded by a lot of people who will speak your language and they'll be in that tribe or whatever you want to call it. They're right there with you and they feel the same way. But when the rubber meets the road, right? In other words, it's okay a year ago to call Brad Raffensperger the rat. But now you got to shut up and you got to play ball and you can't say anything about Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp running this thing. You can't do that because you're going to cost us votes and I see. So as long as Jeff Duncan is way out here in right field, we just kick him out of the party, right? But when the body of the GOP wants something done, some vindication, we can't do that. That's going to upset the status quo. That's what I can't stand. The tribe wants you to be all the way you want to be until that rubber meets the road. So what is it, double speak? Are you lying to me? Do you really care about what I care about? Because guess what? You, a man in election security, myself, all these people have been on the same road, on the same line, no zigzagging. But when the rubber meets the road, no, we got to have a standing vote. We can't do this. We can't, it's always some excuse why you can't do it. And that's what's wrong here. We're never going to change anything. What good is it if every time you're at a crossroads, you can make a real difference, you shoot back the other way? I refuse to do that, David. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So,
well, listen, if this thing continues on, on the current path, where so the Georgia GOP, they put out a letter, and I haven't seen it myself. They said they emailed it to me. I've looked in every email server I've got. They didn't send it to me, but they did make sure that Debbie Dooley got it. I think a guy named Travis Bowden probably got it. He probably handed off to Debbie Dooley. And again, I'm using the word probably because how many people work there? And Debbie Dooley is the idiot attack dog, and so she got it. She posted it, yesterday. She put it out there, and she had, my home address on there, and I threatened her, and I said, you take that down right away, or I'm going to file charges against you. So she took it down. She reposted it with my address scribbled out of it, and she said, yeah, and she said, well, you posted your address out there first. I was like, Debbie, you don't understand. I get to decide if I'm posting my personal information. You don't get to decide. That's where the law is at right now. I get to decide. Somebody else doesn't get to decide. Right. So, but anyway, they're making a big deal about the fact that that this geriatric John White, the parliamentarian, signed off and said that I have no recourse or anything like that. But one of the things you'll notice is that if you look really closely at that letter online, John White's signature fits under the word sincerely. John White in cursive fits under the word sincerely in 12-point font. All right. So number one, my name's fairly short, David Cross. If I signed David Cross, if my life depended on it, I couldn't put it underneath the word sincerely. All right. So this was a cut and paste. His signature is very blurry. That's on there. Listen, I've seen a lot of doctored documents, in my career. This was a doctored document. I don't even know if he wrote it. I don't know if he knows what's in the letter, but they distributed it and they said, tough cookies, David Cross. You don't have a chance here. And you know what? And I totally expected that was going to happen. So right now there's an appeal that's in front of the RNC that a lot of other people have helped out with as well too. I honestly don't expect anything to happen with that either. But here's the thing. I made those appeals because there were so many people out there that supported me, gave money to my campaign, gave time, effort, energy. They gave time, talent, treasure, to help out with this thing. And if you were in the room, and Roy, I know you were in the room when the vote results came out that said that Josh got 1,000 and some odd votes and I got 600, the room, you could hear people gasp out loud. The room was mine, for sure. I think they swapped the vote on that thing because they were using clickers that had the security feature turned off, for them. So I don't think anything about this was legitimate, and I'm fighting it. I don't expect it to go anywhere, but I owe it to the people who supported me to go out there and fight for them again.
Well, sure. Look, you can speculate that all you want, and that's perfectly fine. Again, what are the measures of balance here? How can you audit these, right? With paper ballots, you could have audited them 100%. No, everybody look at it. But again, I don't think that we had the proper accuracy count on these clickers to begin with. We did have a lot of problems, and those problems were addressed. I personally addressed them with a couple of the district chairs, and they did respond. Okay, but again, what would it matter? Because you cannot audit these. You have no idea where the information is stored, where it went through, how you could possibly audit these. And again, the accuracy vote, to me, that was the stupidest thing in the world. How could you tell the accuracy in that room? But again, you can speculate all you want, because if we would have done a paper ballot, we could have had an auditing trail, So
exactly.
I don't
You know,
know.
one of the things that really irritated me, Roy, is the fact that one of the longest serving sergeant of arms that's out there is a guy named Todd Tibbetts. And Todd's been involved in the Georgia GOP for a long time. And listen, I'm going to drag his name through the mud right now, because that guy told me the night before that we were going to count paper ballots, and I said, "You got to be kidding me." And he said, "Oh no, we're prepared. We're gonna count paper ballots. It's going to happen." And I called a few people and told them that was going to happen.
Wow.
They were excited and elated at the same time. I
Really?
called Sam and Field and a couple other folks and let them know. And then
So he told you that personally.
He's having breakfast with McCoon and making, and McCoon is making it known that rule number 8 of the convention rules must not be changed.
Wow.
And that was about using the clickers. So, Todd, if you're watching, I'm calling you a liar, brother.
Wow.
And I think your family and your father would be dishonored by what you did.
Well, it was just, to me, I'm not going to lie. I got a little bit emotional after we passed the clickers out, only because I had firsthand knowledge of the time and effort that was put in. The thought that was put into these paper ballots was something that I'd never seen before. And I was invited to this group on Signal, and I started reading the comments and was like, wow, these people are for real. And they gave me the information. They said, we're going to have these training classes. We're sending this up the line. It was beautiful. It felt like you were a part of something that it's like every single one, not a person getting a single penny for what they're doing. I was in a Zoom call where on my Zoom call that I was in, people were like, hey, I've got a printer here. We can make these printers. I'm hearing about Josh McCoon's Zoom call. Somebody utters the word paper ballots. They got kicked out of the group. This is insane to me. And that to me was the biggest shame, was to have that much effort put into it by the body of your people, to be completely overlooked like that, completely shut down before they ever even walked in that convention. That's a travesty. Those are the people.
It is, and it dishonors President Trump and his signing of Executive Order 14248. He's trying to bring back accuracy and truthfulness to our elections. And we at the Georgia GOP failed.
Yeah,
we failed. And I can't even say we. Leadership, Josh McCoon, you failed, to make this happen. You talk about, the fact that Donald Trump has you on speed dial. And I hate to break it to you, but speed dial doesn't exist anymore. Okay. But you failed Donald Trump, and you didn't give a penny to him in 2016, 2020, or 2024. You didn't give any money to the Georgia GOP in 2024 before the most important election of modern times. And you want us to believe that Trump is your buddy.
You go back to the GOP. I mean, I've said this 100 times. I'm not even talking about McCoon. It's the entire coalition of never Trumpers. Before Donald Trump almost got his head, what? It was the DeSantis campaign. It was Nikki Haley. It was everybody else under the sun until that happened, and they knew that there's no way that you can go against Trump, right? Well, we were all sitting here. I was getting chastised for saying I was going to write his name in, regardless, with DeSantis. I love DeSantis. He's a great governor. I was going to write Donald Trump's name in on principle, and getting just chastised for that. And then all of a sudden, after that happened, it's Trump all the way. I mean, where were you guys at 6 months before this? I mean, come on. It's
absent. Totally absent.
Yeah.
Absent with their words, absent with their deeds, absent with their checkbooks.
And I've been told too, you can't criticize Brian Kemp because he gave a lot of money to this. He gave a lot of money to that. And then you see a clip of him. He admitted he did not even vote for Donald Trump. I voted. I didn't vote for Trump. It's so silly, a big game that we're in. I feel sorry actually for Catoosa County for everything that they've went through with the accountability, right? The freedom of association, because I immediately left after this and went on vacation for a week. No phone, no nothing. I was gone, only to come back to see the comment about Reagan and this and that. And World War III is imminent any moment now. And to find out that the resolutions that people worked so hard to pass that night was already shut down. And I was kind of thinking, okay, well,
Right.
Mr. McCoon has now been reelected chair. He has got his executive body. It is up to these people to bridge this divide. And then I find out way after the fact that, well, we're not going to hold anybody responsible. So, what are we going to get in the future? I mean, if you were looking for something different, I don't see it. So,
Yeah, I think you're going to get more of the same, and I think that this, you know, I think you're going to see a lot of people that are going to be walking away from the Republican Party. And listen, I'm not telling them to walk away. So the Georgia GOP is probably going to go out there and accuse me of, like, you know, trying to drag people away. And here's the thing: I'm not dragging them away. You're driving them away. You know, the Georgia GOP is an organization that lacks truth, it lacks trust, it lacks transparency. And when you lack those things, people don't want to be associated with that, because that makes it sound like you're associating with criminals.
mm-hmm.
And to my mind, you might as well be, because, you know, we fought a battle against people that lack integrity. And I'm not at a point right now where I'm going to go on stage, you know, and raise hands in solidarity, you know, and union, you know, with a bunch of people that are cheating. You know, one of the crazy things that people don't know is that when I was backstage and Katie Frost went on stage with all those other people and started, you know, talking about, you know, or delivering the nominating committee report, she didn't even finish one half of her second sentence when she said, you know, David Cross has been involved in the Georgia GOP for, you know, since 2023, and since that time he's really delivered nothing of any value. But by the time, and she was continuing in that sentence, but the word after value, she basically got booed so much that you couldn't hear another word, you know, after she said that. Yeah. And so she continued to drive on through that. But the people that were backstage with me, the lighting and camera people back there, they were looking at me dumbfounded. They said, holy cow, we've never heard anything like this. You're going to slaughter this guy. And then they were just as surprised when the vote count turned out the way that it did.
Well, you know, the whole Frost thing was pretty abhorrent. If you look at it objectively, I'm sure they had some bones to pick. We all know this was a contentious election, right? Wrong freaking time to pick some bones, though, in front of the state body. That was roundly rejected, and from what I understand, she has been removed from the GRA. I would say that's a positive move in the right direction. For something like that. We shall see, because, you know, I don't know where I'm going to go from here. Personally, David, I'm glad that convention's over. I'm not satisfied with the turnout, but it is what it is. I want to move to more things like what are we going to do to work on legislation with our dumbfounded legislators in the state who claim, you know, they can't write good bills. Like I want to see the grassroots continue to hit them where it hurts, and that is under the gold dome, because we have the providence of what happened. The providence of what happened last weekend shows us a battlefield where we have severely pitted against a total buttoned down, like, unistructure there that's all supporting Brian Kemp, and they're going to move the players they want, and they're already coming out and they're already trying to strike the Reagan boxes and probably the Tory Branhams and anybody else. You know, I made the comment the other day, well, you know, Derek Grayson's going to run against Warnock in 2028. Is he too black to do that? Is he not black enough? Like, what's your excuse going to be for Derek Grayson?
I saw that.
What are these people's excuses for the fact that you are just completely discrediting these grassroots? You people now have the executive body of the GOP, the money. What are you going to do to elevate some of these people, right? That's the question I want to know. You're sitting here telling them they're never going to be able to win. What are you going to do to elevate them?
They're not going to do anything, Roy. No. They're not going to do anything. No. They're going to try to push them out and discourage them and say, you're
get out of the way. We need your votes.
You're not the right person, but we still need people like you to vote for the person that we're going to pull in here. And it's all about drinking from the fountainhead of the state. Our state brings in billions and billions of dollars. Yes, there's a lot of dark money. And for anybody who doesn't know what dark money is if you're the chairman of the Georgia GOP and you go select, where the convention's going to happen, and you pick out a town that really, really, really wants to have your convention, there might be a chance. There might be. I'm not saying that it happens, but I'm saying there might be a chance. They might slip you some cash to go, hey, if you pick us, we're going to give you some money. That happens everywhere. So, of course, that's one of the things I'm waking up to. I'm accustomed to thinking with morals and decency and ethics, and putting my clients first and that kind of thing. And apparently that's a foreign concept in politics. That just doesn't happen.
Well, I've always been an outsider. I guess I would continue to be, because we've got other things that we're going to be working on and building up. And we're going to, one of my main goals is to build up the Freedom Caucus, right? The Freedom Caucus right now, to me, is the wall that we need to be building in our legislature to stop all of this crap from going through. And we're going to be hurting if we go through another legislative session like we did this past year. And we've got, again, the lame duck session. Whatever they got waiting in the wings to me is scary, to be honest with you. So,
listen, the Democrats are going to bulldoze this. Kemp doesn't care about what's coming up next.
I know.
Kemp cares about Kemp. He's not running for Senate because, honestly, I think he's lazy. And he enjoys the amount of power that he has being governor. He's the most powerful governor in the United States of America because the Georgia Constitution makes it that way. Mm-hmm. And becoming a senator, whether you believe it or not, is a step down for a guy that's in his position. But the problem is he's probably not going to become, the president of the University of Georgia because, tier 1 schools, their presidents typically have, a PhD or a JD or something like that. And let's face it, I mean, the governor had a hard time graduating from high school and college. I mean, I know people that went to, that were in some of the same classes as him, and they say that he cheated on tests and things like that. So listen, that's going to sound a little bit outrageous, but I mean, that's what I'm hearing from people that I know that went to school with him. So,
well, go back to the original commercial. I mean, did he uphold any of those things that he did? We never got the 7 Mountains. We never got the original commercial from Kemp. I mean, it just shows you more of the game that's being played.
Kemp was going to round up criminal illegals in his big old truck, right?
Yeah, and he said that.
Turned out to be BS.
It is. The whole thing to me is just a clown show. I will say this. I want to give a special shout out, of course. I'm glad that Laurie McLean won her election again. I don't know how that's all going to work together. I don't want to see Laurie McLean kicked out of this because, to me, she was one of the most integral parts of showing people that, hey, I'm not saying people are doing anything wrong, but we're not doing it right. That's what I saw from Laurie. A special shout out to Lisa Pierce because, again, she is a stalwart fighter and she really cares about growing the GOP. She's on my level of what they're doing. I wish we could do that up here. And, of course, Noreen Cantor, she takes the cake for her speech that day. That was you could feel her angst in that.
She was angry. It's funny. So I went to dinner with her and BKP and some other folks afterwards. And Brian took me aside and he said, David, he said, your speech was a 10, an absolute 10. You left it, I'm sorry, not a 10, 100. He always scored me. All right. My my first score was pretty bad out in Cobb County, but he said, your speech was 100. You left it all on the field. And Noreen was at the end of the table, and she said, how about my speech? How did I score? And I was like, girl, you got 110. You got bonus points.
Yeah, it's true. Kylie Kremer continues to be a person, you know, I understand, like, I try to look at everything objectively. Now, Kylie, when she's on X and stuff, I'm telling you, when you read that stuff, sometimes the hair stands up on the back of your neck, you know. Kylie is one of those people, you know. You know what I'm saying when I say that. I can understand a little bit about, you know, because Kylie is out there and she is going to do it and say it. But when you get her up on a microphone and you're listening to her and her convictions, it's it's awesome.
She brings it.
She brings it.
She brings it 100%.
And I think the worst travesty out of all of this to me is that Amy Kremer is the RNC committee woman. You know, she's there and she has been shut out from everything. Again, let's what did the GOP do for 2 years? They started right out of the gate trying to remove you as second vice. They removed BKP, and that was all they did. So that's all we got from the GOP. Trump Force 47 came. Hey, great job. Kudos. Anybody that was there was going to do Trump Force 47. I'm not taking anything away from the people that did boots on the ground. But again, what did we get from the GOP in the last 2 years? We got nothing. I'm not looking to get anything else, right? They laid the line down and said, nope, we're stopping things here. This is where it stands. And so, again, my question for the night is, why on earth, what do they have that I need to be involved in?
Nothing. And here's the thing, Roy. So the Georgia GOP had an opportunity to put a grassroots person in there if they hadn't rigged this election. They hadn't rigged it and used, the Frost family, working with McCune to make this whole thing happen. They had an opportunity to have a real, true grassroots leader, and leaders, at the helm, which would have facilitated making it so that we would be able to replicate Trump Force 47. But instead, they're going to get the opposite of that, the exact opposite. And my concern is, listen, I reached out to JD Vance, today, and and told him that he's if something isn't done, with this Georgia GOP thing that happened, last weekend, he's gonna lose Georgia in 28. Absolute certainty.
Right, but we're going to get the blame for it, though. There are people already finger pointing, people like me who are talking like this. Oh, you guys are the ones that's going to cost us the election. And I'm like, are you kidding me? If we keep going with the Republican Party that we have, they are already doing the work for us. There is no difference between the Democrats. The only difference is,
and I agree, Roy. Just because you're talking about it doesn't mean that you're leading people. You're simply the voice for hundreds or thousands of people that are out there that don't have the time, the patience, the energy to express their feelings to their, to local, to the local or to the county GOPs and into their districts out there. You've got people that are living in bubbles out there, like the Denise Burns of the world, that think that you're the problem.
I definitely. They think I'm a problem.
all that you're doing is amplifying the voices of other people that are out there. If you look in your comments, I'd be willing to bet that there's a ton of people out there saying, that they feel the same way.
I'm sorry, guys, but actually, we got the first comment tonight. I thought the comments were wrong. We have 104 people watching, but there's only one comment that's come through, and I don't know if it was on my end or what, but we won't be doing any comments tonight. Sorry. It looks like we're starting to get hammered too. Okay, we're back up. Yeah. But yeah, man, look, again, I certainly don't want to walk away from this conversation. I'm not going to quit going to the GOP. I'm going to continue to do what I always do, but My focus is where can I put my time and energy into something that's going to make a difference, right? So if I can't get anything done at the GOP, well, then we're going to go this other avenue. We're going to keep building people up and waking people up until we can get enough people to elect somebody. I mean, if again, I go back to Reagan Box, for example. My God, if we're already telling people, sorry, but you've got no chance because you don't have any money. But you are the people that tell me that you control the money, that you're there for the money. It doesn't make sense. I get so tired of being treated like a 9-year-old, or some of these people that play naive, as like with the convention, right? They tell me they are the ones that name the enemy list to me, and then they turn around a week later after they've got so much backlash, and they go, I don't know what happened. We've got to figure this out. Like, I'm not a freaking 9-year-old, man. Like, stop treating me like I am. You know damn good and well what happened on Saturday. Everybody knows what happened on Saturday. Let's stop pretending.
Right.
But then again, this is all make-believe. This is a clown show. So I don't know, Dave. I mean, you got something. I know we're going on an hour and a half. How do we move forward, David? How are we going to move forward?
I think. Listen, I think what you do is, like I said, I'm going down a road right now where I'm appealing things.
Okay.
Right. And if we as patriots don't get any type of satisfaction from the Georgia GOP or from the RNC, then I would tell you, stay tuned. Right. You still got your values. Every single one of you that's watching this, that shares the values of God and country and the Constitution and doing what's right, and you value those things over position and power and in politics. Stay tuned. There's gonna be news that's coming. If we don't get satisfaction, or some kind of hearing that comes out of this, then something explosive, I think, is going to happen. And I think a lot of people are going to be really happy about it.
Well, I'm certainly going to be watching. I mean, we're on this show. We're going to continue. I put off a ton of guests for this convention, right? So that we could focus on getting the information out. So we're going to continue to bring what matters most. We're going to continue. We're looking at getting people together about taxes, about new legislation, where we've got to get ready, because each year we're behind that wheel. And I'm telling you, we're just going to keep going forward with or without this GOP, to be honest with you, because, again, I don't know what else to do, because I'm not in this because of a color or a specific voting. You're telling me I have to hold my nose and vote? I'm done with holding my nose. Okay, if Debbie Dooley's way is, it doesn't matter how good you are, it doesn't matter how great you are, if you ain't got the money, honey, you best just get on out the way. Okay, then I'm going to vote the get on out of the way every single time. So you might as well go ahead and I'll raise my hand and say that I'm costing Georgia, because I am not going to. I'm not going to just give my vote away freely anymore. This is ridiculous. You get crap in, it's crap out every time. We can't even hold one of the worst secretaries of state of the history of this nation accountable. Well, I'm sorry, but if you expect me to vote for him just because he ends up on the other side, I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen for me. No, so I don't know what to tell you.
I feel the same way. Fortunately, we got some time, for that runaway. It's not happening this year. It's going to be happening next year. So, Roy, I will definitely keep you, I'll keep you apprised of everything that's going on. And, if we get a change or a turn that happens with the ship, I'll let you know.
I appreciate it, David. And I told you from the beginning, I said, David, I don't trust you. And I said, you know what? I don't need to trust you. All you need to do is show me what you're going to do. And I stand by that, because it's not about even being in a tribe or trusting. We're going to continue to do the things that matter the most, regardless. I'm not playing this game and this system with these people, and I'm not going to run up and bootlick for a seat at the table. It's not going to happen. We're missing a bunch of really good baseball right now, what we're doing. So, I can always go back
We
to
are.
the bread and circus. But I want to thank you. Thank you again for jumping on the show with me tonight. I had no idea you were coming on. It's been a blast. Again, we'll continue to support you and especially all the election security. Look, I hate to keep harping on it, but I'm sure you saw Kash Patel come out about China. There's more evidence dropping every single day. Mike Lindell won his case in Colorado.
I got called a lunatic about that one too.
Yes.
3.5 years ago. Talking about pallets are manufactured in China.
I know.
Turns out it was true.
Sure, and we continue to use Dominion voting. So I went last night. I voted on Dominion voting systems and saw the results today. And we're still voting on these stupid systems, and it's like insanity, brother. But anyway, all right, guys. I am super sorry about comments, but comments did not come through tonight. I will go back and try to answer anything. I'm sure Dave can too. I believe I'm speaking for myself here that all roads are leading to Kemp, and that's a sad state of affairs that we're dealing with because I don't think we're going to get anything different from now till 26. I hope I'm wrong, and I think we gave it one heck of a shot this past convention. So it's up to the GOP, too. It's not up to me to fix the divide, by the way. It's up to the GOP. The elections happened. It's there. What are you going to do about the Reagan boxes and the people that are out here, boots on the ground? What are you going to do with the people like me who's going to continue to go off into the territory that you want me to hush? That's up to you guys. So, all right, man, we're going to get out of here. I will see you guys next week. We got a bunch of stuff coming this summer. Y'all have a good one. Just hang tight, David.
Peace.
Legislature legalized unverifiable voting in 2000.
Like you said to Trump, but they're getting booty.
They said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from the areas that they mean and
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.